Let's have a look at the powers and the items that are available for Moira in Overwatch 2 Stadium. In this series of videos, we take a look at all of the items and powers for the heroes that are available on the Overwatch 2 Stadium roster. And today we're taking a look at Moira. So alright, here we are with Moira, two of her example builds. For now, we are going to ignore those. Although, I have to say, the Orb Doctor one is pretty good. But anyways, let's start with weapon. We got 4 hero items in total within the epic and rare category. Let's start out with the rare ones. The first one is called Bio Needles. It gives you 10% attack speed, better grasp, secondary fire, restores 50% more biotic energy. This one is actually pretty good. In the end, Moira is all about balancing your healing versus your damage, something that not everybody understands. But you need to do both. And the way that you balance it is with this resource that you use to heal and you gain back by DPSing. Now, normally, let's just deplete it until it almost is going to hit red. That's where you best stop. This is the rate at which it will come back in the normal circumstances. Now, if you're going to use this item, you're going to go back till we almost hit the red. There we go. Look at the speed with which it comes back. So that means you're going to have your heals available more often, and you don't need to do as much damage. So it's less of an excuse if you're not healing or not getting those healing targets and keeping everybody alive together with your other support. I really like this one. And I mean, the attack speed isn't bad for Moira either, because all of her abilities kind of have this tick to it. And the faster her attack speed is, the more ticks she'll do, which means she'll do more damage. It's almost like you're getting extra shots. The next one is called High Capacity Tubing. It gives you 10% weapon power and 50 max biotic energy, which basically gives you the same result than the previous one did. It is going to give you a bigger container to fill, so if you get both of them, you should be fine to keep your heals up at all times. I wouldn't advise it. I think it's overkill, but you know. And the weapon damage. In this case, as I mentioned in my general stats video, which is coming up pretty soon, I'm still working on it. That one is a little more complicated than these videos. That weapon power is important for her because that, as you can see, will empower her biotic grasp. So that is going to give her more damage output. Alternative energy, 10% ability power, 15% attack speed. So that is going to give you more power for your orbs, and it is going to have your grasp tick faster. When you use fade, refill your biotic energy. So let's deplete it, do fade, and we come out of fade with a full bar. But your fade is on a short cooldown, that's 6 seconds. So you can kind of heal your proverbial ass off, fade, start again from the other side, and by the time you're out of juice, you do it again. There is no way you're going to run out of juice anymore at this point. Subatomic Splitter, 10% weapon power and 15% biotic grasp secondary fire range. So if we do it without the item, the range is about 20 meters. Contrary to the healing, which is 15. Now we equip the item. And with the item, it should be about 23 meters. You don't always get it to connect immediately. It's kind of weird. It's not going to make the biggest difference. I don't know if I would do it just for the distance. I don't think you win that much. The weapon power could be interesting. I mean, 10% of weapon power. If you're going to stack everything on weapon power, you might want to get it. Although I think there's better items to do that. Alright, moving over to the ability tab. We have another 4 items. Again, 2 rares, 2 epics. Starting out with the rares. Smart Orbs give you a 5% ability power. Biotic Orbs move 50% slower when they're healing or dealing damage. So, you've seen these, most likely. What just happens is that as soon as they find a target, they'll slow down, which is going to give them the opportunity to do either more healing or more damage as they slow down as you're doing the job. And as soon as they're out of range of the target, they'll move on at the same speed than they usually do. But under certain circumstances and certain maps, that actually can be very strong. And you recognize them immediately. They have like an extra effect to the orb, which I kind of like. Levitation Shawl, 10% ability power. During Coalescence, you get free flight. Basically, she becomes a true witch and starts flying. Coalition, 25 health. 15% ability power. Allies healed by Coalescence deal 15% increased damage. So, what that means is... Look, this little robot is shooting his tank friend. There's some damage going off. But if I do this... His shots actually have a more of an impact. Because it helps him to do extra damage. Now, the way you want to do that, of course, is by doing damage yourself and standing from this position. But I didn't want to hit the tank bot. And basically use your coalescence down this line where you damage their target and you heal them while giving them a damage boost. So everybody wins. Well, except for the target, but who cares? And the last ability item is 50% ability power and 30% biotic orb tendril range. So your orbs have tendrils to them, as you might know. Let me show you the tendril. I'm going to send the damage orb to that bot. You'll see there's going to be orbs connecting. I think they connect to up to, what is this, 5 meters? I think that is the range. Let me see. Yeah, see? 5 meters. Now if you equip the item, so that should give you 6 to 6.5 meters range. There we go. Moving on to the survival items. There's only one hero item in the survival category, and it's a rare one. And it's Abyss Boots, 25 health. While using Fade, you jump 30% higher, which is comparable, if not identical, to the one perk she has in the normal Overwatch. Let's have a look at the powers. Chain Grasp. After using Biotic Orb, Biotic Grasp, secondary fire changes to 2 additional targets within 10 meters for 3 seconds. Let's give that a try. We don't use the Biotic Orb, or we don't have the power. This is what you see. We use the Biotic Orb, and there we go. Now, I've used this one quite a lot in some circumstances. It works really well, but I've also had instances where I felt it wasn't worth it. I was better off just kind of boosting my orbs. You basically have 2 directions to go with Moira. I'll make separate videos on that, on what the perfect builds are or what good builds are, but you can basically stack everything on your orbs, which is currently, I think, the strongest one, or on your grasp. And if you stack a lot of stuff on your grasp, this is definitely useful. If you can boost that grasp and make it really strong, it is going to make a difference. If you don't, if you just kind of use it, besides like stacking it on your orbs, I don't know if that is the way to go. Deconstruction. After you spend 50 biotic energy, deal 20% increased damage for 6 seconds. If I do a grasp build, which I don't tend to do that often anymore, that is one I definitely get. Just as you spend your resource and start healing, you'll see that her arm is going to glow up blue. And at that point, you're going to do 20% extra damage for 6 seconds. Which is, to be fair, very strong. Now, if we were to combine that with Chain Grasp, we're going to get a buff and an orb. Yeah, it starts to stack up, and it works. Next up is Empowering You. Biotic Grasp secondary fire can target allies, increasing their damage by 15%. Which is basically like that item we had earlier, where your ultimate will boost the damage. Well, you can do this on an individual level, and you get basically some type of blue beam, much like Mercy has. External Excision. While aiming at the enemy's head with Biotic Grasp, secondary fire, gain 30% move speed, 30% lifesteal, and restore 100% more Biotic energy. This one is strong, but it is very unlike Moira's to be aiming at the head. They just kind of usually aim at the body because that is the biggest mass. You're also life-stealing, so you're healing yourself. You're moving faster. I mean, if you can focus on doing those headshots with Moira, the payoff is pretty big. Optimal Overflow. After you spend 50 biotic energy, launch the latest selected orb with 75% reduced duration. So, if I spend 50 biotic energy, you'll see, boom, there it is. The last orb. If I now send a damage orb and I do that again, as soon as I spend 50, boop, there it goes. It's almost like I'm laying an egg. And that one only has 75% of the duration of a normal orb, but it does the same amount of damage. It's not a weaker orb, it's just going to live a little less long. Could be worth it. I mean, for the orb build, it actually is worth it. Precarious Potency. Allies healed by Biotic Grasp are healed for an additional 20% of Biotic Grasp healing over 5 seconds. That will add another 5 seconds to that heal, which is actually pretty strong. And it will give you 20% of the healing will keep on ticking. Look at that. If you have a difficulty keeping people alive, this is the one you need. Cross Orbal. Biotic Orb launches an additional Biotic Orb of the other type with 50% reduced capacity. Alright, so the other one we did earlier had 75% duration. This one has 50% capacity. What that means is that any orb that you launch as Moira has like a max capacity. If it kind of sticks to a target, it will use all of its capacity and at some point be depleted. It's just for every orb that you send out, there's potentially a max amount of healing and damage that they can do. With this power, you basically can send out 2 orbs. So whatever orb you'll be sending, there's going to be one of the other color that is going to follow. What you need to make a decision about is, am I sending this orb to damage or am I sending this orb to heal? Are you going to get a side effect? So if I'm shooting at these bots, I want to damage them, send my big orb, which is going to be the damage orb, while I can also heal any other ally that should be around there, helping me out. Maybe there's a Genji, maybe there's a soldier, someone around that vicinity that is going to get a little bit of healing out of my orb. The other way around, I see these guys dying, I send in a heal orb. Whoever might be harassing them is also going to take a little bit of damage because that damage orb is trailing the healing orb. That wasn't the best orb. I mean, there's balls that they can ricochet off and I'm just kind of shooting them in the distance, but you get the point. You can have a lot of balls in the air with Moira. And talking about a lot of balls in the air, yeah, that sounded weird. Anyways, multi-ball. Biotic Orb launches 2 additional orbs of the chosen type with 85% reduced effectiveness. Effectiveness just means that they'll do less healing, less damage in the same tick. Let's have a look. So whatever orb you're going to be throwing, damage orb, this is going to be 3. The middle one is the big one. The other ones are going to do a little less damage, but... And the same way for the healing orb. There we go. I mean, if you want to do an orb build, you need that one. Now, if you don't have enough orbs just yet, I got you covered. Phantasm. When you use Fate, spawn a stationary copy of the last selected orb with 50% reduced duration. What this will do is, let's say I just chose damage orb. Anytime you fade, the orb will appear. Now I do a healing orb. I walk over here and I fade. There we go. You leave behind a little gift for the rest of your team to heal them. For now, we're going to leave the orbs. I want to do something at the end of this video to see how many orbs we can get up, but for now we're going into the Fade territory. Scientific Dead-Odd. I don't know what the Dead-Odd is, but anyways. While using Fade, passing through enemies grants 5% ultimate charge and overhealth equal to 50% of your max life. So that might sound like a lot, but let me just show you on these 2 guys. If I fade through them, I'm going to get a 5% ult charge and I'm going to get 15% of my max life and overhealth. There we go. So I just jumped up from, what was it, 3 to 13? Because I got 5 for each of them. I got quite a substantial amount of overhealth. And the thing is, I can keep doing this. And I'm going to keep getting ult charge for every cooldown I hit. But also overhealth. I can get up to 100% overhealth. So that means you can have a Moira with 450 health if you keep this up. There we go. That's not bad. A tanky Moira. Alright, next up, Void Hoppers. Fade also phases other allies within 8 meters for 0.25 seconds and grants them overhealth equal to 20% of your max life. I'll fade. So you see them getting the overhealth. If they were moving at that point, they'll also kind of have the same effect as me and kind of become invisible for a second. But what it also does, when Moira fades, she drops the debuffs. And they also drop the debuffs. So that allows you to cleanse targets using the fade. So if they should have fire damage on them, you fade and it's gone. And they get overhealth on top of that. So that one is pretty strong. And then the last one is Destruction's Divide. God Essence can be toggled between pure healing and pure damage with 25% greater effect. So what that looks like is basically, instead of doing both, you do one of them, but you'll do that way better. So if I want to do more healing, I use this one and I can switch on the fly. You don't make that choice at the start. It doesn't stick around. You can just switch between the choices, but with 25% better capacity. I would say that that is actually a pretty good base state for that ability. Maybe they should make that just the standard. That's what I'm thinking, but you know. Alright, but let's see how many orbs we can get up. So we'll start out, of course, with the multi-ball. And we're going to add the extra ball. We're going to add the ball that we trigger once we start healing. And then we're going to leave a ball when we fade. So you'll basically get this. First we get the orb for the 50. We fade. And we send our orbs in. And we get the extra orb on top of that. So that is 6 orbs flying around. And my cooldown is off again. There we go. But that was it for Moira. Tell me, which combo would you be using? Would you go for orbs or would you go for your grasp? Let me know in the comments. For now, however, that was it. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. It always helps me out. I also want to thank my patrons and YouTube members. You too can become a member over on patreon.com/theomnicpost and right here on YouTube to unlock exclusive rewards. If you have a few minutes left, maybe check out one of my other videos. But above all, take care of yourself, take care of each other. Bye bye.